We spend a lot of time on perfecting the ways we are perceived. Whether through social media or fashion, we always do it mindlessly and never really think about it. The other night I was lying in bed trying to fall asleep while overthinking some important things, and I continuously wandered back to the same question I always tend to ask myself. Why do I behave the way I do? Why do I care about my appearance or my social media presence at all? In the past few months, as I've been away from college, I've been very free from performative friendships, external judgment, and the influence from my peers. But to make up for it, I had nearly doubled my online presence. I wanted to feel impressive and important again. I wanted some kind of validation. Of course, we all try to adjust our behaviors based on the people we interact with. Trying to impress others and succeed is just part of human nature. But I, like most people, take this need for validation beyond what's natural. Sometimes I feel like I live and breathe for attention and approval from other people. So much so that I don't just adjust my behavior, but I change the integrity of who I am. I was thinking about my own integrity and racking my brain for answers, and soon I started thinking about the Dark Knight from Final Fantasy IV. Final Fantasy IV is one of the most influential games ever created, and I feel like sometimes people forget the gravity of what this game accomplished. Prior to its release, video games were just that, games. But when Final Fantasy IV released in 1991 with a major developmental focus on its characters and storyline, the gaming scene was completely changed forever. An element of maturity was now synonymous with games that wanted to be taken more seriously. Final Fantasy IV was one of the first games to demand attention from critics, not just as a game, but as an art form. So it may come as no surprise that at the center of this historic experience is, in my opinion, the most important character in gaming history, Cecil Harvey. We are first introduced to Cecil as he is returning from his most important mission for the Kingdom of Baron. Commandeering the Red Wings' elite air force, Cecil mounted an assault on Mysidia, a village of mages and home to the powerful water crystal. He marched on Mysidia ruthlessly, slaughtered its helpless inhabitants, and claimed the water crystal for the king. His brutal invasion was deliberately introduced alongside an almost disturbingly caring and reasonable personality. The entire opening sequence makes you question how someone as genuine as Cecil can't see how his dedication is being exploited. And for a while, Cecil remains in complete denial, protecting himself and absolving himself from the responsibilities of the atrocities he had just committed. He is completely aware that his actions were wrong, and he stifles his own questions and his own sense of reason with thoughts of patriotism and loyalty. To put it more concisely, he justifies betraying himself just to conform to the expectations of the king and the world around him. We all behave like Cecil. We are deeply invested in the image of what we're supposed to be. We love to express our opinions, and we love to claim that we're living for ourselves, despite being clearly commanded to obey expectation. Oftentimes, we know that our actions are inconsistent with the person we are, but we are too comfortable and content in our positions and in our safety. we don't want to change. We pretend to want independence, but we're so eager to live for the needs and desires and expectations of others. The atrocities we're committing are against ourselves. Our dominant culture demands that we surrender our sense of individuality, and without self-reflection and introspection, we will continue to damage the integrity of who we are. Sometimes we need to find the courage to question our choices and guide ourselves down the right path. Cecil soon finds the courage to question authority, and for this, he is banished from the kingdom of Baron alongside his friend, Kain Highwind. It's no surprise, when you decide to live for yourself, it can sometimes seem like your world is crumbling. After leaving their pasts behind, the two eventually return to Mysidia. But Cecil is not so easily forgiven. He is cursed and slandered by the people he massacred, and in desperation, he seeks to learn from the people who had seen him at his lowest, most pathetic, and most manipulatable moment. In the same place where he had once committed his greatest injustice, he hopes to find balance. The Elder of Mysidia sends Cecil on a quest to the Mount Ordeals, and it is here where the legendary transformation and most important moment in Final Fantasy takes place. The name Cecil comes from the Latin word for blind, someone who is not only blind to their own shortcomings, but also unaware and unlearned on how they can grow and change. Cecil enters the reflective chamber and faces himself, the Dark Knight. He is bestowed with the power of the Sword of Legend, and warned that if he cannot wield its responsibility, the light of justice cannot accept him. At this moment, Cecil's dark reflection emerges from the reflective wall and confronts him for one final showdown. But Cecil does so much more than just fight his inner demons in this scene. It's not the same cliché story of cleansing and acceptance that we see in other games and media. Final Fantasy IV shows us a sequence of change and growth and freedom from expectation. The Dark Knight is not Cecil at all. It's who the world wants Cecil to be. The Dark Knight is a perversion of Cecil, who is enthralled and obsessed with love and validation from other people instead of himself. And that's exactly why this sequence turns into the opposite of a fight. In fact, the only way to survive this confrontation is to ignore it. Only by ignoring the world's expectations, defending the integrity of who he is, and concentrating on himself, can Cecil succeed. By turning his back on all the expectations, he achieves what we all strive for. He becomes free. So now I urge you to think about what it is that you want. But now think about whether you actually want any of these things, or whether you just want to impress the people around you. Are you truly living for yourself, or are you living for the love and attention from other people? Are you being yourself, or is your behavior and integrity a slave to the expectations of others? Am I making this video for myself, or just to find validation in the few people who leave comments and likes for support? What do we truly want? Cecil teaches us that when you ignore the damaging influences that are thrown at you and the unqualified judgment of those around you, you can change. You can find freedom in your own cause, and maybe if you're in a video game, you can save the world. Final Fantasy IV remains one of the most powerful experiences of entertainment available. The gameplay can seem a bit dated at times, and I'm sure we're all familiar with how absurd the story can get, but ultimately, it's a game that forces us to question the origins of our own morality and individuality. It pushes us to grow and strive for ourselves. It's a story about expectation and the will to power. It's about the will to be who you are. We face the same questions and consequences of integrity every day. And for this reason, Cecil's enlightenment and detachment from expectation represents one of the most important and relatable character arcs in gaming history. Focus on yourself and the person you want to be. The world and its expectations will try to attack you, but they will be powerless to contend with your commitment and devotion to yourself. Thanks for watching.